Introduction to Ezra. Author, probably Ezra. Date written between 457 and 444 BC. Time span about 81 years. Title, from one of the book's chief figures, Ezra. Background. Ezra continues from the exact place where Second Chronicles ends. Cyrus, king of Persia, issues a decree that permits the Jews of his kingdom to return to Jerusalem after 70 years of captivity. The exodus of Israel from Egypt includes some 3 million people, but fewer than 50,000 people take advantage of this second exodus, a 900 miles from Babylon back to Jerusalem. At least parts of the period coincide in time with these historical figures: Gautama, Gautama, Buddha, Buddha, and India. Confucius, Confucius in China. Socrates in Greece, followed by his pupil Plato, and Pericles in Athens, erecting the Parthenon, Parthenon, were written, Jerusalem. To whom? To the Israelites. Contents after Cyprus edicts, Zerubbabel leads the first return of God's people to reveal the ruins of Jerusalem and the temple that have been destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. The work is repeatedly hampered by shortages of resources and by external opposition. These discouragements bring all work to a halt until God sends the prophets Haggai and Zechariah to encourage the people, who then enthusiastically rebuilds the altar and the temple of God. Some years later, Ezra leads and returns of priests from captivity to Jerusalem. Ezra's effective ministry includes teaching the Word of God, initiating reforms, restoring worship, and leading spiritual revivals in Jerusalem. Key words: return and rededicated. From bondage, God's people are now ready to return to their land, their worship, and their God. They have to rededicate themselves to rebuilding all that they have lost: the altar, the temple, and their faith in God and His Word. Themes: God sovereignly looks over and protects His children. God always keeps His promises. When God's people receive punishment for sin, it shows that pure love includes correction. In return for God's enduring love, we ought to obey His word. No problem is too big to stop a plan made in the will of God. Our goals should be worthy in God's eyes, as well as our own. Our sorrows of yesterday can be our successes of today. Outline. Number 1. Exiles return to Jerusalem. Ezra chapter 1 verse 1 through Ezra chapter 2 verse 70. Number 2. The temple of God is rebuilt. Ezra chapter 3 verse 1 through Ezra chapter 6 verse 22. And number 3. Ezra comes to Jerusalem and reforms the people. Ezra chapter 7 verse 1 through Ezra chapter 10 verse 44. May the Lord add a blessing to the introduction of Ezra.